Welcome. Today, we're going to trace this single, absolutely unbreakable promise through centuries of war, collapse, and exile. It's like this golden thread that held firm even when an entire kingdom was literally coming apart at the seams.
So that really brings us to the core question of our whole story today. How does a promise actually survive when a kingdom falls? When the armies are defeated, the palace is a pile of rubble, and the throne is completely empty? What happens to a promise made to a king about a dynasty that would supposedly last forever?
Okay, let's dive right in. So, picture this. It's around 930 BCE, right after King Solomon dies, and the nation just splits in two. The northern kingdom, Israel, they get pretty much everything, more land, more people, but the southern kingdom, Judah, it gets Jerusalem, the temple, and most importantly, it gets the promise, that divine promise made to their ancestor, King David. Now, the history of Judah, it's not just some boring list of kings. You have to see each reign as a test, almost like a trial, that pushed this divine promise to its absolute limit. It was this centuries-long experiment, really, to see if the promise could survive the very people who were meant to carry it. And it starts right away with Solomon's son, Rehoboam. This is a guy who was raised in total luxury, and when it's his turn to lead, he chooses arrogance over good advice and loses 10 of the 12 tribes almost overnight. The most telling detail of his reign, Solomon's incredible, magnificent gold shields get looted, and they're replaced with cheap bronze. It's the perfect symbol, isn't it? The kingdom is definitely diminished, but it's not destroyed. The promise holds on. Then you get a king like Asa, and his life is a lesson all by itself. He starts out with this incredible faith, tearing down idols, trusting God for these amazing military victories. But then, as he gets older, fear starts to creep in. He starts making shady political deals and even throws a prophet in prison for calling him out. His reign is proof that a faithful start just doesn't guarantee a faithful finish. But the greatest threat wasn't a foreign army. No, it was a queen from within, Athaliah. And yeah, she was the daughter of the infamous Jezebel. She seizes power with just one goal in mind, to completely exterminate the royal line of David and finally cut that golden thread of promise forever.
So after her bloody massacre of the entire royal family, the whole future of the centuries-old promise, the entire Davidic line, all of it rested on the life of one person. Just one, a single hidden child. For 6 terrifying years, the true heir to the throne, a little boy named Joash, is hidden away by priests deep inside the temple itself. Then, in the 7th year, they bring him out, they crown him king, and the promise is literally pulled back from the absolute brink of extinction. A few generations later, during King Hezekiah's reign, this whole idea is put on full display. The mighty Assyrian Empire, the superpower of the day, has Jerusalem completely surrounded. Militarily, it's hopeless. The Assyrian king is out there openly mocking Judah's God.
So what does Hezekiah do? He doesn't come up with some brilliant military strategy. He prays. And that night, an angel of the Lord reportedly strikes down 185,000 Assyrian soldiers. Just like that, the siege is broken. It was the clearest sign you could possibly get that Judah's survival had nothing to do with its army and everything to do with its covenant. But, even a rescue that miraculous can't stop the inevitable. After one last good king, Josiah, the kingdom just enters this terminal decline. You have a series of weak, corrupt kings who make one disastrous choice after another, and the whole nation just spirals towards its end. And this leads to the most severe test yet. What happens to a royal promise when there's no royalty, no palace, no throne, no kingdom at all? In 586 BCE, the unthinkable finally happens. The Babylonian army breaks through the walls. Jerusalem is completely sacked, the Temple of Solomon is burned to the ground, and the very last king is blinded and dragged away in chains. The throne is empty. From any rational point of view, the story's over. The Davidic dynasty is finished. The promise, it really looks like it has finally failed. Hasn't it? But here's the astonishing twist. The promise wasn't broken. It was just relocated. The royal line actually survived through a young king named Jehoiachin, who had been taken to Babylon years earlier. Decades later, a new Babylonian king lets him out of prison. The lineage continues, not from a palace, but from a prison cell. So this whole period of exile, it does something really remarkable.
It actually prepares the way for the ultimate fulfillment of the promise by solving a problem that had plagued the dynasty right from the start. So just as a quick reset, remember the core promise we've been talking about? A descendant of David would have an eternal kingdom. And this was an unconditional promise made by God himself. Okay, but here's the massive problem, right? That royal line, starting with Solomon, was filled with corruption, idolatry, and just failure. So how could an eternal, perfect kingdom ever come from such a flawed and judged family tree? And here is the absolutely brilliant solution that God had been weaving through history all along. The line of David had actually split into two main branches. The official royal line, through his son Solomon, carried the legal right to the throne, and that line eventually leads to Joseph. But another line, through David's other son Nathan, quietly carried the direct blood descent, and that one leads straight to Mary. You see how this all just clicks together perfectly? Through his adoptive father Joseph, Jesus inherits the full legal right to David's throne, and through his mother Mary, he inherits the actual blood of David. He unites both of these claims, perfectly fulfilling the promise without being tainted by all the failures of the official royal line. So, when we step back and look at the whole thing, what we see is this single, unbroken line, that golden thread woven through every single crisis, every failure, every bad king, all leading to this one singular conclusion. The critical takeaway is this: human kingdoms are fragile. Cities can burn, thrones can be emptied out. But a divine promise? Well, it operates on a completely different level. It doesn't depend on human power or our successes. So in the end, all those centuries of failure and miraculous preservation, they served a purpose. They made it crystal clear that history was no longer just waiting around for the next king in the line. It was waiting for the king, the one who wouldn't just inherit the promise, but would be its ultimate fulfillment.